All right, so I'm going to be jumping back into ogres, it looks like, because I was able to get a number of the Maneater models at not only discounted prices, but the previous price discounted. So, um, still expensive, but much cheaper than they are right now. I do think Maneaters are up around $40 Canadian each, and I spent about $10 less per model, um, other than Golgfag, just because Golgfag is he was always expensive, $10 or $15 more than the average man eater. But um, that's okay because these are models I wanted to get. With the recent price hike, I never really even thought to go look at these before the prices went up, and then I was kicking myself until I thought, well, let's look around online, and I did happen to find these with a retailer that was still offering the original price. I don't know if they just decided that we bought it at X price and we're going to continue selling it that way, or if they had just forgotten to update it. But either way, I grabbed them. Happy to add them to my collection, even though I will not be painting them for the foreseeable future. But again, happy just to have them. Other than I am missing two, but I'll get into that. So the Man Eaters, if you're not aware, are a group of ogres that are super characterful. Actually, to be fair, each of these could be used as a character without any problem. I don't think anybody would argue over these things being used as tyrants and butchers, other than maybe a couple. There is one more, technically, I believe. Oh my god, what is his name? The Gutsman. If I can just jump back here. There we go. Had to pause it for a second so I could sneeze. Bragg the Gutsman. Yeah. So he's moved over to being an option for the Maneaters. But getting back to these guys. The reason I'm showing the pictures right now also is, unfortunately, these are Finecast, which means not only am I going to have to deal with Finecast, but they're in those ugly white boxes. So there's nothing pretty to look at until we get them painted. So what I bought, just to get right into it, is Golgfag Maneater. He is a classic character, at least 30 years old in the lore, as far as I know. And he used to be this series of metal models for the Dogs of War. Him and his crew, but they were much plainer back then, as anybody who's aware of the models would know. I also grabbed the Pirate Maneater, just because he's cool. He's a pirate. And he's an ogre. I mean, it's pretty much perfect. He has a parrot. Which actually, part of me thinks the parrot is a Noblar in a costume. I haven't looked at it up close. Actually, yeah, 100%. That's a Noblar in a costume. That is pretty amazing. So, Golgfag, Pirate Boy. We got the Arabian Man Eater. This guy here obviously has spent time in the lands of Araby and picked up some culturally appropriate wares for that land, being a desert and all. I did not get the female. I don't think she was there. I don't remember seeing her on the list. But she's pretty neat. She always has been sort of a favorite of mine. I don't know if she's wearing a fake beard or if ogre women have beards. I think this is the only example of a female ogre I've ever seen in Warhammer, so I'm just gonna guess she's wearing a fake beard. But, maybe she's not, because she's not really trying to hide that she's a woman either, so maybe they really do have beards. If anybody knows, it'd be neat if you could point me in the right direction. I did get the Paymaster, because these guys are mercenaries, and if I play 6th edition with the ogres, I do plan to use this as a modernized Golgfag Maneater regiment. So having a Paymaster in with his crew makes sense, since, you know, Dogs of War and Paymasters. And just in general, the idea of an ogre whose job is to make sure that the gold is, you know, watched out for. That makes sense to me as well. And finally, I grabbed the Imperial Man Eater. Now, the Imperial, he's sort of the plainest of the bunch. But at the same time, I don't know, I kind of like this guy. I always did, again. I think he'll fit in with my armies, and I can always toss him in with my empire for, you know, a special scenario, or however I can figure out how to do it. So yeah, the final one, the Ninja, I did not get the Ninja either. The reason I chose not to get the Ninja is simply just because he's one of the more intricate models, and I wanted to avoid getting him in Finecast, so I am going to keep my eye out for a metal model with for the Ninja. He's just hard to come across in metal. I've seen most of the others pretty regularly, other than the female Man-Eater, but like I said, I'll keep my eye out. Eventually, I'm sure I'll come across it. I always eventually find these things. They're out there. You just gotta wait. Okay, so now that we've seen some pictures, I'm going to present you my very ugly table that I'm using. And I'm going to start taking a look at these. So again, that's the price in Canadian for him. I think he was like normally $50 or whatever, so that's a discounted price. I don't know what he is now. These things, they've always cost a bit, you know, on the absurd side, the ogre characters. So it's really not shocking. It just sucks that it's Finecast. The only reason I'm not too mad about Golgfag here is simply just because Finecast is lighter, and he's got a lot of crazy things going on, as you saw. So, let's pull out the pieces. And let's take a look together, because I haven't actually looked at these up close. Clubs maybe a little crooked, but I mean, that's just a bit of hot water and then some cold water to set it. But otherwise, his body looks really good. I don't see anything even on things like the scale mail seems okay even. His back piece, which, man, if this was a metal piece, I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of glad this guy's Finecast. Just for this back thing. This would be maybe a pain. Again, not seeing any issues. I am like most people. I will complain about having to buy Finecast, but that's mostly because of you know, the history we had with it early on. I actually find most Finecast models by now are pretty good. They finally have figured out the process or the recipe or whatever. Again, I'm not seeing anything that stands out. Yeah. Actually, there's one more thing that does suck about Finecast. I'm just going to put this guy away while I say this. You don't tend to get any form of instructions with Finecast models, and like, I get that they're not complicated to put together, but my only concern with Finecast models where I don't get the instructions is I don't know if I got everything. Like, it looks like he's complete. And these guys, again, they're fairly simple in terms of how many pieces they come with. But, like, this guy's got a sprue. He's got both bases. Golgfag had a square base I just thought of. I just noticed, and this guy has both. So I would imagine that Golgfag, he got packed back before Age of Sigmar, I'm guessing, based on the fact that there's no round in there. All right, Paymaster. Sorry guys, I have a cold, and I'm trying to get some hot beverages into me to try to fight it, but it's not really working. Yeah, the Paymaster looks good. I like this little Noblar with the abacus. I mean, I keep saying it. The Noblars as a unit don't really interest me. I think it's because they're terrible, but also most of them are fairly bland. They're just, weedier goblins. But the decorative Noblars are pretty much some of the best things in Warhammer. They're hilarious. Like, every single time I see Noblars in these weird, like, supplementary poses and sculpts, they're pretty much always amazing. Like, this guy has an abacus. That's awesome. And there's his head. And his bits. I mean, again, like, it looks good. I think it's all there. This pay chest looks like it's a bit melted. I don't know. It probably is, to be honest. It's Finecast. I don't know what this is. I mean, I would assume this is something. There's a hole behind. Does that go there? That's what I'm talking about. Like, just give me some basic instruction, just so I can do a parts count. I don't know what he has in his hand. It looks like a bottle, so I'm a little confused what the hole is. But yeah, that's the Paymaster. Who's this guy? The Imperial Man Eater. Yeah, these Man-Eaters were all $31.50 Canadian. I don't know what they are now, but part of me thinks they're like 42. So I wasn't going to wait for these to actually pop up. This is the last chance I was going to get at the $30 range, so I just took it and tossed in Golgfag, because if I was going to get 4, I may as well just go for 5, and he made the most sense. So once again, it's just 2 of these resin sprues. This guy also has his round. And once again, I'm not seeing any problems with this. Yeah, I mean, that looks pretty good. I mean, I'm always going to be disappointed that the boxes are so boring. But at least in the case of Man-Eaters, even though the white box is super boring, the... let me just see this for a second. I'm just going to stop myself. No, Age of Sigmar was out when they boxed this Golgfag, because it's on there. They just didn't pack him with a round. So, that's, that's something. Okay. Nothing important, because I'm not going to put him on a round anyways, but free round bases are always helpful. Alright, the Pirate. I'm worried about this guy just because I like him a lot, and I don't want him to have any issues. Nothing immediate. I mean, look at that. A Noblar parrot. That's awesome. God, I love Noblars when they're like this. Can't stand the units. I don't want to pay for, like, what is it, 24 for like 40 something bucks? I don't want that. They're gonna buy 2 boxes of those, and I'm gonna paint all those little guys, and they're immediately gonna die and run away. But decorative Noblars? Yes, please. Oh man, that guy's sweet. Freaking Captain Barbossa. yeah, it all looks good. I'm not seeing any of the details are a bit soft on these pistols. That's unfortunate, but unfortunately that is just how Finecast goes. Is the sword really that kind of short? And based on that picture up there, it is. Okay. I don't know if I've ever seen any of these Maneaters in person, to be perfectly honest. The pirate looks good. And that leaves us with just the Arabian Man Eater. So let's get him out. Yeah, like I said, I think maybe I saw like the female one at some point, but I don't know anybody that really collected ogres that much. And I think the price on the Man-Eaters chased most people away. Having to buy 3 metal models that were, your minimum size, and they were going to cost you nearly $100 in our currency. I think that was enough for most people to kind of just skip them, as cool as they were. So I'm actually glad that somebody was buying them enough that GW never canned these guys. Because I can tell you, if these were models that didn't survive the Finecast transition and were part of the pewter purge, like the original scrap launcher, unlike that thing, I think these guys would be crazy expensive. I think if these had been pewter and done, lasted 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years, whatever that period was that they were out until Finecast came, if they had gotten cut, I think these guys would be like $100 Canadian minis, just because they're cool. Yeah, I mean, it's the last dude, and that might be a bubble, but I think that's just like the fur lining or whatever, just the way it's twisted. Another cool Noblar. I mean, he's probably the worst one of the bunch. He's pretty plain, but I don't know. There's something about this guy. He makes me think of Abu from Aladdin at the start with the monkey's got a sword. We've all got swords, idiots. That section of the film in the start. There's definitely an Abu vibe. I might try to see if I can sculpt a little fez on him or something. And there's his head and arm, and yeah, no. It's been a while since I've bought a Finecast model that's had any serious issues, and honestly, I don't even seem to notice any minor issues at this point either. And maybe other people are having different luck, but personally, my luck has held out pretty good on Finecast the last like 4 or 5 years. I don't buy a lot of it specifically because of the issues, but I'm just not seeing them like some people keep claiming they do. And I'm not saying that they're lying or that they're exaggerating their issues, but I think some people are having much worse luck, or maybe they're coming across some of the older examples of the product. But I mean, that was 5, and I mean, if you guys saw anything on there, just point out which model and a timestamp sort of where the problem was. But I didn't see anything wrong with them, other than I prefer metal. The details are sharper and nicer, but that is the unfortunate reality of GW and their homegrown recast market. You're going to lose details just like if you were going to go buy them off of any recaster. So anyways, that's the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any thoughts on the Maneaters, this like special, unique line in the Warhammer range, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on them, because I think they're some of the best models GW ever did in terms of the more modern stuff, 6th edition and on. And also, I think that even as 6th edition models, they were like ahead of their time. These guys here were so much better than really almost anything else that was coming out that period. So definitely some of my favorite models, happy to have them, and I'm going to keep my eyes out for those last two. Hopefully get them for a good price at some point. But for now, 5 of them going to go on my shelf until I have time, and then I'll try to give them a really good paint job, because these guys deserve it. They definitely deserve character level attention, each and every one of them. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.